Welcome to Chapter 3, Pair of Linear Equations in Two Variables. You'll see that two linear equations are simply two straight lines, and solving them means finding where those lines cross. You'll learn the three possibilities: one crossing, no crossing, or the very same line, and a quick ratio test that tells you which, without any drawing. Then you'll master two clean algebra methods, substitution and elimination, on every example and exercise, step by step, before finishing with exam practice.
In the darkness of the unknown, a stuck student finds their way, the greatest minds, and turn confusion into brilliance.
Let's start with a question you might not have asked yourself. Why does one linear equation, like 0.6x minus y equals minus 0.5, turn into a line when we draw it? Think about what the equation is really saying. It's a rule that ties x and y together. For every x you pick, the rule hands you back exactly one y. Plot all those allowed pairs and you don't get a scatter of dots. Because the rule is linear, x and y only ever appear to the first power, no squares, no products. The points fall perfectly in a row. That row is a straight line. So a line isn't a picture we bolt on afterwards, it is the equation, wearing its visual clothes. Here are two such equations, and each one, drawn on the grid, is its own straight line. Now here's the key idea of the whole chapter. Every point on the blue line is a pair of x and y that satisfies the first equation. That's what the blue line means. Every point on the green line satisfies the second. So if we want an x and a y that obey both equations at the same time, we are hunting for a point that lives on both lines at once. And where do two lines share a point? Only where they cross. So solving a pair of equations isn't some separate algebra trick. It's just asking, geometrically, where do these two lines meet? That single crossing point, right there, is the answer. Its x and its y, read off together, are the one pair of values that makes both equations true at the same moment. Feed those numbers into equation 1 and it balances, feed them into equation 2 and it balances too. That's what a solution to the pair means, one point, satisfying both. Hold on to that picture, because everything else in this chapter is just different ways of finding this meeting point. So the solution is a meeting point, but here's a natural worry. Do two lines always meet? Let's reason it through by watching. Most of the time the two lines head off in different directions, and two lines pointing different ways can only ever cross in one place. Try it in your head. You can't make two straight lines touch at two separate points without them being the same line. So the usual situation is exactly one crossing, which means exactly one solution. This is the normal, happy case, and it's the one you'll meet most often. But is one crossing guaranteed? Watch. I'll slowly rotate the green line until it tilts at exactly the same slope as the blue one. Keep your eye on the red meeting point as I turn it. See how it slides further and further out as the two lines get closer to pointing the same way. Their crossing runs off toward the edge and then off the screen entirely. The instant the slopes match, the lines are parallel, they march side by side forever and never touch. No meeting point means no pair satisfies both equations. This pair has no solution at all. Now here's the surprising third case. The green line is still parallel, same slope, but I'll slide it sideways, lowering it, until it drops right on top of the blue line. Watch the moment they coincide. Up to now parallel meant never touch, But if two parallel lines happen to sit at the exact same height, they don't just touch at one point, every single point of one is a point of the other. And that tells us something about the algebra. If the two lines are literally the same line, the two equations must be secretly the same equation, one is just the other multiplied through by some number. Since every point on the line satisfies both, there isn't one solution, there are infinitely many. So the whole story is three cases, and only three: cross once, never cross, or cross everywhere, one solution, none, or infinitely many. Nothing else can happen with two straight lines. Drawing works, but it's slow and imprecise. You can't always tell a near miss from a true crossing on a hand sketch. So here's the beautiful part. We can decide which of the three cases we are in just by looking at the numbers without drawing a single line. And it isn't a rule to memorize blindly, it comes straight from the geometry we just watched. Let me show you where it's born. Write both equations in the same standard shape, ax plus by plus c equals 0. Now recall the geometry. What decided our three cases? The slopes and the heights of the lines. And from ax plus by plus c equals 0, the slope is minus a over b, and the height where it sits is set by c. So comparing the two lines really means comparing their a's, their b's, and their c's. The neat way to do that is to stack them as three ratios, a1 over a2, b1 over b2, and c1 over c2. Each ratio asks how many times bigger is one equation's coefficient than the others. And the answers reveal the geometry. First case, the A ratio and the B ratio are different. Think about what that means. The slope is minus a over b. If a1 over a2 doesn't equal b1 over b2, then the two slopes can't be equal, the lines tilt differently. Different tilts must cross exactly once. So unequal A and B ratios guarantee one solution, the lines cross. That's a happy case, caught purely in the numbers. Second case, now the A ratio and the B ratio are equal, but the C ratio is different. Equal A and B ratios mean the slopes match, the lines are parallel. But the CS, which fix the height, are out of step, so the two parallel lines sit at different heights. Parallel and separated means they never meet, no solution. See how each condition is just the geometry translated into arithmetic. Third case, all three ratios are equal. Equal A and B means parallel, and now the CS scale by the same factor too. So the second equation is just the first one multiplied through by that common number. It's the very same line written twice. Every point works, so there are infinitely many solutions. Three ratios, three cases, and each one earned from the picture, not memorized. That's the ratio test. That's the whole chapter held in one picture, and it's worth carrying with you. Two equations are two lines. The solution is simply where they meet. And there are only three ways two lines can relate: cross once for a unique solution, run parallel for no solution, or lie on top of each other for infinitely many. Every method we are about to learn, whether we draw a graph, substitute, or eliminate, is just a different tool for finding that same meeting point. Keep the picture in mind and none of the algebra will feel like magic. Now let's work every example and exercise. Let's walk through all 10 insert examples together, one gentle step at a time. Keep the big picture from the concept in your mind. Every equation is a line, and solving a pair means finding where the lines meet. Watch how the same three cases keep returning, and how the graph, substitution, and elimination methods are just three different roads to that one meeting point. The word consistent just means the pair has a solution, a common point. So really we are asking, do these two lines meet? Let's draw them and see. Here's our plan, and here's why it works. A straight line is completely pinned down by any two of its points. Through two dots there's exactly one line, no more. So instead of plotting dozens of points, we only need two per line. Find 2 points on each, join them, and wherever the lines cross is the pair that satisfies both. Let's find those points. For the first line, I'll set x equals 0. Why 0? Because it's the kindest number to substitute, the x term simply disappears, leaving something we can solve in one step. This also happens to give the point where the line meets the y-axis. Now 3y equals 6, so I divide both sides by 3 to get y alone. That gives y equals 2, our first point, 0, 2, right on the vertical axis. 1 point isn't enough to draw a line, so let's get a second. This time set y equals 0, which finds where the line crosses the horizontal x-axis. With y gone, x equals 6. So our second point is 6, 0. Now the second line, same clever trick. Start with x equals 0 to kill the x term and land on the y-axis. So minus 3y equals 12. Dividing by minus 3, watch the sign, gives y equals minus 4. That's the point 0, minus 4, well below the axis. And the second point of the second line, put y equals 0 to find its x-axis crossing. 2x equals 12, so x equals 6, the point 6, 0. Now plot both pairs, join each with a ruler, and look carefully. Both lines pass through 6, 0. That shared point is the solution, and here's why it must be. A point common to both lines lies on both, so its coordinates satisfy both equations at the very same time. That's exactly what a solution is. The two lines meet at one single point, so a solution exists. That's what consistent means. And notice we could have predicted this from the numbers. The A ratio is 1/2 but the B ratio is -1, and since those ratios differ, the slopes differ, forcing the lines to cross. Graph and ratio test agree. Insight: whenever two lines cross at a single point, you get exactly one clean answer, and you can tell that in advance just by checking that the A and B ratios don't match. That's the unique solution case, straight from the concept. The fractions here look scary, but there's a suspicion worth checking first. What if these two equations are really the same line wearing different clothes? Let's test that before we draw anything. Here's the reasoning behind our first move. Remember the three cases. If these two equations turn out to be the same line, the answer is infinitely many solutions, and drawing would just waste time. So before graphing, let's test whether the second equation is simply the first one multiplied by some number. If it is, they're the same line. The first equation starts with 5x and the second with 3x. To turn 3 into 5, I multiply by 5/3. And here's the crucial point: multiplying an entire equation by a non-zero number never changes which points satisfy it, both sides grow by the same factor, so the balance is untouched. Same line, same solutions. Let's scale the second equation by 5/3 and see what it becomes, term by term. The x term, 5/3 times 3x gives 5x. Now the y term, scaled by the same 5/3. 5/3 times minus 24/5 y, the 5's cancel, 24 over 3 is 8, gives minus 8y, exactly matching the first equation so far. And the constant, scaled the same way to keep the equation honest. 5/3 times 3/5, 5's cancel, 3 over 3 is 1, gives plus 1. Now assemble the scaled second equation, 5x minus 8y plus 1 equals 0. Look, it's letter for letter identical to the first equation. So they were never two different lines at all, they're one line written two ways. Same line means every point on it satisfies both equations, so there are infinitely many solutions. And this is precisely the ratio test's third case in action, A1 over A2, B1 over B2, and C1 over C2 all equal 5/3. When all three ratios agree, coincident lines, infinitely many solutions. In sight, when one equation is just the other scaled up, the lines lie exactly on top of each other and share every point. The telltale sign is all three ratios matching, and checking that is far faster than plotting. This is a word problem, and the whole skill is translation. Turn the English into two lines, then just read off where they meet. Let's do it slowly. The first and most important move in any word problem is to name the unknowns, because you can't write an equation about the number of pans until it has a symbol. Let x be the number of pans and y the number of skirts. Now each English sentence becomes one equation about x and y. Take the first fact. The skirts are 2 less than twice the pants. Let's translate word by word. Twice the pants is 2 times x. That's 2x. 2 less than, it means we subtract 2. So y equals 2x minus 2. Notice how the English maps cleanly onto the algebra. The second fact, 4 less than 4 times the pants, translates the very same way. 4 times x is 4x, and 4 less subtracts 4. So y equals 4x minus 4. Now we have two lines. To draw the first line we need 2 points, since 2 points fix a line. Picking a couple of convenient x values gives 2, 2 and 0, minus 2. Plot those. Same for the second line, 2 points are enough. 0, minus 4 and 1, 0. Plot and join. The two lines cross at exactly 1 point, x equals 1, y equals 0. Because that point sits on both lines, it satisfies both conditions of the story at once. That's why the meeting point is the answer. In sight, don't be thrown that y equals 0. It isn't a failure, it's a real answer. It simply says Champa bought no skirts. Always sanity check that the numbers make sense in the story, and here they do. Graphs are lovely for seeing the idea, but you can't read exact fractions of a sketch. So we switch to algebra. Our first algebraic method is substitution. Let me show you not just how it works, but why it's allowed. Here's the whole idea of substitution and why it's legitimate. The solution is 1x and 1y that must obey both equations. So at the solution, whatever x equals according to one equation, it also equals inside the other. That means we can safely take an expression for x from one equation and drop it into the other. We are not inventing anything, we are using a value that's true in both. Doing that leaves a single equation in a single unknown, which we know how to solve. That's the plan. First, choose which variable to isolate and be strategic about it. Look at the second equation. X already has a coefficient of 1, so isolating x there costs us no dividing and no fractions. Always pick the easiest variable to peel off. It saves grief later. So isolate x by moving to y to the other side. Subtracting to y from both sides keeps the equation balanced and gives x equals 3 minus 2y. This is our expression for x, still true whenever the second equation is true. Now the key substitution step. Wherever x appears in the first equation, replace it with 3 minus 2y. Why the first equation and not the second? Because we already used the second to get this expression, putting it back there would just give 0 equals 0. Substituting into the untouched first equation gives us new information, and now it contains only y. Expand the bracket carefully, distribute the 7 across both terms. 7 times 3 is 21, and 7 times minus 2y is minus 14y. A very common slip is forgetting to multiply the second term, so go slowly. Now collect the y terms, minus 14y and minus 15y combine to minus 29y. We're down to 21 minus 29y equals 2. To get the y term alone, move the 21 across by subtracting it from both sides. That leaves minus 29y equals minus 19. Finally divide both sides by minus 29 to free y. The two minus signs cancel, leaving y equals 19 over 29, a clean positive fraction. We have y, but the question wants both unknowns, so back substitute. Put this y into our simple expression x equals 3 minus 2y. Working it out gives x equals 49 over 29. Now we have the full pair. Insight: don't be alarmed by the fractions. Substitution delivers the exact values, no rounding. This is exactly why we abandon the graph the moment the crossing point isn't at a neat whole number. Algebra sees what the eye can't. Age puzzles feel tricky until you spot the trick. The ages we call S and T are today's ages, and every years ago or years from now just shifts both by the same amount. Let's build the two equations carefully. Name the present ages first. That's the anchor everything else is measured from. Let S be Aftab's age today and T his daughter's age today. Every sentence in the puzzle is about a different moment, but we'll always express it in terms of these two, today, numbers. 7 years ago, so rewind both ages by 7 years. Aftab was S-7 and his daughter was T-7. The key insight: both ages drop by the same 7, because time moves for everyone equally. Now the relationship at that past moment, he was 7 times as old as she was. So his past age equals 7 times her past age. That gives S-7 equals 7 times the quantity T-7. Let's tidy this into a clean standard form. Expand the right side to 70 minus 49, then bring everything to one side. It simplifies to S minus 70 plus 42 equals 0. That's our first equation. On to the second fact. 3 years from now, this time fast forward both ages by 3. Aftab will be S plus 3, his daughter T plus 3. Same shift for both, just forward instead of back. At that future moment he'll be 3 times as old as she is. So his future age equals 3 times her future age. S plus 3 equals 3 times T plus 3. Tidy this one too. Expand to 3T plus 9, move terms across, and it reduces neatly to S minus 3T equals 6. Now we have two equations in S and T, a solvable pair. Time for substitution. The second equation is simpler, so isolate S from it. S equals 3T plus 6. This expression for S is true at the solution, so we can carry it into the first equation. Substitute 3T plus 6 in place of S in the first equation. Now every S is gone and only T remains, which is exactly the point of substitution. Combine like terms, 3T minus 7T is minus 4T, and 6 plus 42 is 48. So minus 4T plus 48 equals 0. Solve for T, move 48 across and divide by minus 4. The daughter's present age is 12. Back substitute T equals 12 into S equals 3T plus 6 to recover S. 3 times 12 is 36, plus 6 is 42. Aftab is 42 today. Insight: the whole method rests on one honest idea: shift every age by the same number of years, and the given relationship still holds at that moment. To different moments give two equations, and a pair pins the ages down. Quick check: 7 years ago he was 35, she was 5, and 35 is indeed 7 times 5. It works. This looks like an ordinary shop problem, but something sneaky is hiding in it. Let's run substitution honestly and watch the algebra reveal it. Write both facts as equations. 2 pencils and 3 erasers cost 9, 4 pencils and 6 erasers cost 18. Let X be the pencil price and Y the eraser price. We'll try substitution and pay close attention to what the algebra tells us. Isolate X from the first equation. Subtract 3Y and divide by 2, giving X equals 9 minus 3Y, all over 2. Nothing unusual yet. Substitute that expression for X into the second equation, so it holds only Y. Watch carefully from here. Simplify the fraction. 4 divided by 2 is 2, so the 4 over 2 becomes a clean factor of 2 multiplying the bracket. Multiply out the bracket. 2 times 9 is 18. 2 times minus 3y is minus 6y. So we have 18 minus 6y plus 6y equals 18. Now look, minus 6y and plus 6y cancel completely. The y vanishes and we're left with 18 equals 18, a statement that's always true no matter what y is. This is the algebra's way of shrugging. It can't pin y down because y was never constrained. Why did that happen? Because the second equation is exactly twice the first, same line in disguise, and the ratios confirm it: 2 over 4, 3 over 6, and 9 over 18 all equal 1/2. All three ratios match, so it's the coincident case: one line, infinitely many solutions. Insight: when substitution collapses to a true identity like 18 equals 18, the two facts were really one fact stated twice. There isn't enough information to fix the prices, so no unique cost exists. Learn to read that identity as a signal, not a dead end. Two rails are two lines, and will they cross is just the everyday way of asking, is there a point that lies on both? So this is a meeting point question in disguise. Let's test it with substitution. Let's be clear on what we're really asking. A crossing point would be an x and a y satisfying both equations at once, a common solution. So, will the rails cross is exactly, does this pair have a solution? Substitution will answer it, and it'll tell us by what it leaves behind. Isolate x from the first equation, it's the simplest. Move the y term and constant across to get x equals 4 minus 2y. Substitute 4 minus 2y for x in the second equation, so only y remains. Then watch the y terms. Expand the bracket. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times minus 2y is minus 4y. So 8 minus 4y plus 4y minus 12 equals 0. The minus 4y and plus 4y cancel, y disappears entirely, just as it did in the last example. But watch what's left this time. 8 minus 12 is minus 4, so we are left with minus 4 equals 0. That is simply false, minus 4 is not 0. Unlike the last problem, the leftover statement is a contradiction, not an identity. A false statement means no value of y, and hence no point, can satisfy both equations. The rails share no point. The ratios confirm it, 1 over 2 equals 2 over 4, so slopes match, but that equals minus 4 over minus 12 is 1/3, which differs. Equal A and B ratios but a different C ratio, the parallel case, exactly. Insight, here's the pair of signals to remember. If the variables vanish and leave a true statement, the lines coincide, infinitely many solutions. If they vanish and leave a false statement like minus 4 equals 0, the lines are parallel, no solution, they run side by side forever. The leftover line is telling you the case. There are two clever ideas here. First, how a single letter captures a whole ratio. Second, a brand new method, elimination, that shines when substitution would get messy. Let's meet both. Here's the ratio trick. Incomes are 9 to 7, doesn't fix the actual rupees, but it does say the incomes are 9 parts and 7 parts of some common unit. Call that unit x. Then the incomes are 9x and 7x, and their ratio is automatically 9 to 7 for any x. Do the same for expenses with a different unit y, 4y and 3y. One letter each captures the whole ratio. Now turn savings into equations. Savings equal income minus expenditure, and we are told each person saves 2000. So 9x minus 4y equals 2000, and 7x minus 3y equals 2000. Two equations, two unknowns. Here I use elimination instead of substitution, and here's why it works. If two equations are both true, then adding or subtracting them gives another true equation. The clever part, if we first arrange for one variable to have the same coefficient in both, subtracting makes that variable cancel, eliminated, leaving one unknown. To match the y's, note 12 is the least common multiple of 4 and 3. So multiply the first equation by 3 to turn minus 4y into minus 12y. Now multiply the second equation by 4, turning minus 3y into minus 12y as well. Both equations now carry an identical minus 12y, perfectly set up to cancel. Subtract the first new equation from the second. The minus 12y terms are identical, so they vanish. That's the elimination. 28x minus 27x is x, and 8,000 minus 6,000 is 2,000. So x equals 2001 clean stroke. We have x. Now recover y by putting x back into an original equation. The first will do. 9 times 2000 minus 4y equals 2000. That's 18,000 minus 4y equals 2000. Solve. 4y equals 16,000, so y equals 4,000. But the question asked for the incomes, not x itself, so finish the job. Incomes are 9x and 7x. 9 times 2000 is 18,000. 7 times 2000 is 14,000. Insight: 2 takeaways. Using one variable for a ratio turns 9 to 7 into workable numbers. And elimination: matching a coefficient, then adding or subtracting to cancel a variable, is often cleaner than substitution when neither variable has coefficient 1, so no ugly fractions appear mid-solution. The question says, find all possible solutions, which quietly warns us there might be none. Elimination will tell us straight, and if it hands back a contradiction, that contradiction I is the answer. We'll eliminate x and read the result. If we get a number, great. If we get an impossible statement that tells us no solution exists. Let's line up the equations. To match the x coefficients, multiply the first equation by 2, turning to x into 4x. Remember to multiply every term, so the right side 8 becomes 16. Now look at both. 4x plus 6y equals 16, and 4x plus 6y equals 7. The entire left sides are identical, same x term and same y term. Subtract one from the other. Every variable term cancels at once, both x and y disappear together, and on the right we get 16 minus 7. That simplifies to 0 equals 9, which is plainly false. The algebra has hit a contradiction. And that's not a mistake. It's the method telling us clearly that no x and y can satisfy both equations. Insight: when the left sides come out identical but the right sides disagree, you're demanding one quantity equal to different values at once. Impossible. Geometrically, that's two parallel lines, same slope, different heights, never meeting. So, all possible solutions is none. Digit puzzles look mysterious until you remember what a two-digit number actually is. The secret weapon is place value. Let's unpack it. Here's the idea that cracks every digit problem. A number like 42 isn't just a 4 and a 2 side by side. The 4 means 4 tens. So if the tens digit is x and the units digit is y, the number's real value is 10x plus y. That place value expression is what lets us write equations. Reversing the number swaps which digit sits in the tens place. So the units digit y now counts as tens and x drops to units. The reversed number is 10y plus x. Same digits, different places, different value. The first fact says the two numbers sum to 66. So add the original and the reverse together and set it equal to 66. Collect like terms. 10x plus x is 11x, and y plus 10y is 11y. So 11x plus 11y equals 66. Every term has a factor of 11, so divide the whole equation by 11. That never changes the solution, it just simplifies. We get the lovely clean equation x plus y equals 6. That's our first relationship. Now the second fact. The digits differ by 2. Here's a subtlety a careful solver notices. Differ by 2 doesn't say which digit is bigger. It could be x minus y equals 2 or y minus x equals 2. So we must handle both cases. Case 1. X minus y equals 2. Combine case 1 with x plus y equals 6. Add the two equations, the minus y and plus y cancel, eliminating y. That gives to x equals 8, so x is 4 and y is 2. Tens digit 4, units digit 2, so the number is 42. Now don't stop. Case 2 might give another valid number. Case 2, y minus x equals 2. Solve it the same way alongside x plus y equals 6. Adding eliminates x this time, giving x equals 2 and y equals 4, the number 24. Both are genuine answers. Insight: the phrase differ by 2 quietly hides two possibilities, and a careful solver checks both instead of stopping at the first. That's why the question asks, how many such numbers? The answer is 2, 42 and 24. Quick check. 42 plus 24 is 66, and each has digits differing by 2. Both pass.
Now let's solve every exercise question, breaking each into small, clear steps you can follow. A total and a difference, that's two equations. Set up, name the two unknowns, then turn each sentence into an equation. 10 students in all gives the total. Girls are 4 more than boys gives the relationship. Substitute the second into the first, so only x remains. Combine and simplify. Solve for x. Back substitute for girls. Insight, total and different sentences hand you exactly the two equations you need. Match the pencils, subtract, and the pens fall out. Set up, let x be 1 pencil's cost and y 1 pens. Each purchase is one equation. First purchase. A second purchase. Set up for elimination. Multiply to match the x terms. First times 7. Second times 5. Subtract to remove x. Solve for y. Put y back into the first purchase. Solve for x. Insight, matching one variable's coefficient and subtracting, is fastest when neither is already alone. No solving needed. The ratios reveal the geometry. Set up, the ratio test alone tells the geometry. Unequal A and B ratios give intersecting. All 3 equal give coincident. A and B equal but C different give parallel. Part I. Compare the first 2 ratios of these lines. The A ratio and B ratio differ, so the lines intersect. Part II. Compare all 3 ratios. All 3 are equal, so it is the same line. Part III. Compare all 3 ratios. A and B ratios match, but C differs, so parallel. Insight, the ratio test lets you read a system's fate at a glance, before any real solving. Consistent means at least one solution exists. Set up, intersecting, or coincident lines are consistent. Only parallel lines are inconsistent. Part I, compare A and B ratios. Part Roman II, compare all three ratios. Part Roman III, compare A and B ratios. Part Roman IV, compare all three ratios. Part V, compare all three ratios. Insight, only genuinely parallel lines are inconsistent. Coincident lines still count as consistent. Classify first, then only solve the ones with a point to find. Set up, classify by ratios, then solve only those that actually have a solution. Part I, compare all three ratios. Part Roman II, compare all three ratios. Part Roman III, compare A and B ratios, they differ, so consistent. Solve Roman III. From the first equation, y equals 6 minus 2x. Substitute into the second equation. Simplify and solve. Part Roman IV, compare all three ratios. Insight, classify before you solve. It saves hunting for a point a parallel pair never had. Half the perimeter is just length plus width. Set up, perimeter is 2 times length plus width, so half the perimeter is simply length plus width. Half perimeter is 36, giving our first equation. Length is 4m more than width gives the second. Substitute into the first, so only w remains. Combine like terms. Solve for width. Back substitute for length. Insight, knowing half the perimeter equals length plus width, turns a wordy clue into one line. Control the ratios, and you control the geometry. Set up, we design the second line by choosing ratios, since the ratios decide the geometry. Intersecting needs the A ratio different from the B ratio. Break the match. Roman II, parallel needs A ratio equal to B ratio, but C different double X and Y. Change the constant. Roman III, coincident needs all three ratios equal. Scale the whole equation by the same factor. Insight, once you see ratios as dials, you can build a line to any relationship. Many answers work. The x-axis quietly acts as a third side. Set up, a triangle has 3 corners, so we need 3 intersection points. The 2 lines together, and each line with the x-axis. First corner, solve the 2 lines together. From line 1, x equals y minus 1. Substitute into line 2. Simplify and solve for y, then x. Second corner, line 1 meets the x-axis where y equals 0. Third corner, line 2 meets the x-axis where y equals 0. Insight, the x-axis counts as a third line, so a 2-line problem becomes a 3-corner triangle. One equation is almost solved already. Set up, isolate one variable from the simpler equation, then substitute. Isolate x from the second equation. Substitute into the first. Combine like terms. Solve for y. Back substitute for x. Insight, when one equation is nearly solved for a variable, substitution is just a step or two. Clear the fractions, and it's plain sailing. Set up, the first equation is clean, so solve it for s and substitute into the fraction equation. Isolate S. Substitute into the second equation. Clear fractions by multiplying every term by 6, the LCM of 3 and 2. Multiply out and combine. Solve for T. Back substitute for S. In sight, multiplying through by the LCM sweeps away fractions, so the algebra stays simple. Stay alert for the variables disappearing. Set up, solve the first for y, substitute, and watch for the variables vanishing. Isolate y. Substitute into the second equation. Multiply out. Everything cancels to a true statement. A true identity means the equations are the same line. In sight, a true statement with no variables is the signature of coincident lines. Decimals are easier as whole numbers. Set up, decimals are easier as whole numbers, so first scale both equations up. Multiply the first equation by 10. Multiply the second equation by 10. Isolate x from the first integer equation. Substitute into the second. Simplify, since 4 divided by 2 is 2. Multiply out and combine. Solve for y. Back substitute for x. In sight, clearing decimals first prevents small slips. Same answer, cleaner numbers. No constants means a special meeting point. Set up, both equations equal 0 with no constant term, hinting the answer sits at the origin. Let's confirm. Isolate x from the first equation. Substitute into the second equation. Simplify the first term. Factor out y. The bracket is a non-zero number, so y must be 0. Back substitute for x. In sight, 2 lines through the origin with no constant term always meet exactly at the origin. 2 rounds of clearing fractions keep it clean. Set up, clear the fractions in both equations first, then substitute. Multiply the first equation by 6, the LCM of 2 and 3. Multiply the second equation by 6. Isolate x from the tidy second equation. Substitute into the first. Multiply everything by 2 to clear the fraction. Multiply out and combine. Solve for y. Back substitute for x. In sight, 2 rounds of clearing fractions keep numbers whole and the substitution painless. Solve first, then use the point to find m. Set up, solve the system first, then use that point to pin down m. Both equations start with 2x, so subtracting eliminates x instantly. Simplify both sides. Solve for y. Put y back into the first equation. Solve for x. Now use y equals mx plus 3 with the found point. Solve for m. In sight, hence means reuse the solution you just found. The point -2, 5, is the bridge to m. 3 times the other is a ready-made substitution. Set up, name the 2 numbers, then write 1 equation per clue. Difference is 26. 1 is 3 times the other. Substitute the second into the first. Combine and solve. Back substitute for x. In sight, 3 times the other plugs straight in, no rearranging required. Supplementary quietly gives you 180 degrees. Setup supplementary means the two angles add to 180 degrees. That's our first equation. Larger exceeds smaller by 18. Substitute into the sum equation. Combine like terms. Solve for the smaller angle. Back substitute for the larger. Insight: the word supplementary silently hands you x plus y equals 180. Vocabulary is half the setup. 2 shopping trips, 2 equations. Setup: let B be a bat's cost and C a ball's. Each shopping trip is 1 equation. First trip. Second trip. Setup for elimination: match the B terms. First times 3. Second times 7. Subtract to remove B. Solve for C. Put C back into the second trip. Solve for B. Insight: 2 separate purchases of the same items are exactly the 2 equations you need. Fare equals fixed part plus per km part. Setup: total fare equals fixed charge plus per km times distance. Let F be fixed and K be per km. The 10 km trip. The 15 km trip. Both have F, so subtracting removes it. Simplify. Solve for the per km rate. Back substitute for the fixed charge. Now compute the 25 km fare. Insight: once you know the fixed and per km parts, any distance's fare is a quick plug-in. Becomes a fraction always means cross-multiply. Setup: call the fraction n over d. Each condition becomes an equation after cross-multiplying. First condition. Cross-multiply to remove the fraction. Expand and tidy. Second condition. Cross-multiply. Expand and tidy. Eliminate n. First times 6, second times 11. Subtract to find d. Back substitute for n. Insight: becomes this fraction always means cross-multiply. That turns a ratio into a linear equation. Shift both ages by 5 years each way. Setup: use present ages J and S, then shift by 5 years each way as the sentences say. 5 years hence adds 5 to each. Jacob is then 3 times the son. Tidy into standard form. 5 years ago subtracts 5. Jacob was then 7 times the son. Tidy this too. Subtract to eliminate J. Solve for the son. Back substitute for Jacob. Insight: shifting both ages by the same 5 years keeps the gap fixed. That's what makes it solvable. Scale one line to match a coefficient. Setup: to eliminate x, make its coefficients match by scaling the first equation. Multiply the first equation by 2. Subtract the second from this to remove x. Simplify. Solve for y. Back substitute into x plus y equals 5. Insight: scaling one equation to match a coefficient is the whole idea of elimination. Opposite signs mean adding cancels. Setup: the y coefficients are 4 and -2, so scaling the second by 2 lets them cancel when added. Multiply the second equation by 2. Add to the first so the y terms cancel. Simplify. Solve for x. Back substitute into 2x minus 2y equals 2. Insight, when signs are opposite, adding cancels the variable, no subtraction needed. Tidy to standard form before eliminating. Setup, first write both equations in the tidy x plus by equals c form. Rearrange the second. To eliminate x, multiply the first equation by 3. Subtract the second from this. Simplify. Solve for y. Back substitute into 3x minus 5y equals 4. Insight, always tidy to standard form first. It makes matching coefficients obvious. Clear fractions, then eliminate at a glance. Set up, clear the fractions in both equations before eliminating. Multiply the first equation by 6, the LCM of 2 and 3. Multiply the second equation by 3. Both now start with 3x, so subtracting removes x. Simplify. Solve for y. Back substitute into 3x minus y equals 9. Insight, clearing fractions turns a messy pair into clean integer equations you can eliminate instantly. Reduces to 1 means top equals bottom. Setup, call the fraction n over d. Each condition cross-multiplies into a linear equation. First condition equals 1. Cross-multiply. A fraction equal to 1 means top equals bottom. Tidy. Second condition equals 1/2. Cross-multiply. Tidy. Subtract the first tidy equation to eliminate d. Simplify and solve. Back substitute for d. Insight, reduces to 1 just means numerator equals denominator. Reading the ratio right is the key step. Past and future, both measured from today. Setup, use present ages n and s, then shift by the stated years. 5 years ago subtracts 5. Nuri was 3 times Sanu. Tidy into standard form. 10 years later adds 10. Nuri will be twice Sanu. Tidy. Subtract to eliminate n. Solve for Sanu. Back substitute for Nuri. Insight, past and future both measured from today give 2 clean equations. Time shifts are your friend. Place value makes reversing digits into algebra. Setup, write the number with place value. 10 times the tens digit plus the units digit. Digit sum is 9. The reversed number. 9 times the number is twice the reverse. Expand both sides. Bring like terms together. Divide by 11 to simplify. Add this to x plus y equals 9 to eliminate y. Back substitute for y, then assemble the number. Insight, place value notation, is what lets reversing digits become plain algebra. One equation counts notes, the other counts money. Setup, let it be the count of 50 rupee notes and be the count of 100 rupee notes. One equation counts notes, the other counts money. 25 notes in all. Total value 2,000. Simplify the money equation by dividing by 50. Subtract the note count equation to eliminate a. Simplify. Back substitute for a. Insight, money problems give you 2 counts, how many and how much, which are exactly 2 equations. Count the extra days carefully. Set up, the first 3 days cost a fixed charge F. Days beyond 3 cost C each, so count the extra days carefully. Saritha's 7 days means 7 minus 3, which is 4 extra days. Sussie's 5 days means 5 minus 3, which is 2 extra days. Both have F, so subtracting removes it. Simplify. Solve for the per day charge. Back substitute for the fixed charge. Insight, the word thereafter is the trap. Subtract the first 3 days before counting extras.
Let's lock it all in with exam-style questions before you go. In an exam, the ratio test is your fastest friend. It decides unique, none, or infinitely many in seconds. For every question, we'll see not just why the right answer is right, but why each tempting wrong option fails, because knowing the traps is how you avoid them under pressure. First, translate the words into geometry. No solution means the two lines never meet, they're parallel. And parallel, from a ratio test, means the A and B ratios must be equal so the slopes match, while the C ratio is different so the lines stay apart. So we need to choose K to force the A and B ratios equal. Consider the 4 options. Line up the coefficients. A1 over A2 is 1 over 5, and B1 over B2 is 2 over K, setting them equal. 1 over 5 equals 2 over K, cross-multiply to get K equals 10. Quick check on the constant ratio confirms it differs, so the lines are genuinely parallel, not coincident, no solution. The distractors K equals 6, 3, and minus 10 all fail because they don't make the A and B ratios match, so those lines would simply cross and have a solution. The way to crack any, this pair has. Question is the ratio test. Compare all 3 ratios because they decide between one solution, none, and infinitely many. Notice too that exactly 2 solutions can be ruled out immediately. 2 straight lines can never meet at exactly 2 points, so that option is a trap by design. Consider the 4 options. Write both in standard form and compare. 3 over 6 minus 1 over minus 2 and 5 over 10 all equal 1/2. All 3 ratios agree, so the second equation is just the first doubled, the same line. Coincident lines share every point, so there are infinitely many solutions. Unique solution is wrong because the lines aren't distinct. No solution is wrong because they do meet everywhere, and exactly 2 is geometrically impossible for straight lines. Here's a nice shortcut. The y terms are minus y and plus y, opposite signs, so if we add the 2 equations, y cancels straight away and we get x in one step. That's faster than substitution for a quick exam mark. Consider the 4 options. Add the equations, the y terms cancel, leaving 2x equals 6, so x is 3. Put x equals 3 into x plus y equals 4 to get y equals 1. Since A is x and B is y, A equals 3 and B equals 1. What's the order? Option 2, 1 and 3, is the same numbers swapped, the classic trap for anyone who mislabels which is A and which is B. Always match A to x and B to y. Think about what parallel demands geometrically, same slopes so they never converge, but different positions so they never touch. Now recall slope is minus A over B, so same slope is the A and B ratios equal, and different position is the C ratio unequal. Match that to the options. consider the four options. The second option, A and B ratios equal but C ratio different, is exactly parallel. Equal slopes keep the lines from converging, and the unequal constant keeps them from coinciding. Option 1, A and B ratios unequal, is intersecting lines. Option 3, all three equal, is coincident, the same line. And option 4 mixes the ratios in a way that has no clean geometric meaning. So only the second describes true parallel lines. Anchor on the definition. Consistent means the pair has at least one solution, at least one common point. So the question is really asking which line arrangements share a point. Think through all three cases before you pick. Consider the four options. Two arrangements give a shared point, intersecting lines meet at exactly one point, and coincident lines meet at every point. Both count as consistent, so the answer is intersecting or coincident. The trap options, only intersecting and only coincident, each forget the other valid case. A common slip is thinking coincident somehow doesn't count, but infinitely many solutions is still solutions. And parallel is the one inconsistent case, the exact opposite of what's asked. Assertion reason has three separate checks, and you must do all three carefully. 1. Is the assertion true on its own? 2. Is the reason true on its own? 3. The subtle one, even if both are true, does the reason actually explain the assertion? Let's test each. Which option is correct? Check the assertion. The ratios 2 over 4, 3 over 6, 7 over 14 all equal 1/2, so the lines coincide, infinitely many solutions. The assertion is true. Check the reason. It states that all three ratios equal means coincident lines. That's a correct rule, so the reason is true. And crucially, the reason is the very rule we use to justify the assertion, so it genuinely explains it. Both true and the reason explains the assertion. That's option A. Same three checks, but here they'll pull apart. A good reminder that the assertion and the reason must each be judged independently. Test the assertion with the ratio test first, then weigh the reason entirely on its own merits. Which option is correct? Check the assertion. The ratios 1 over 2 and 2 over 4 both equal 1/2, so the slopes match, parallel or coincident, but the constant ratio 4 over 12 is 1/3, different. Equal slopes, different heights means parallel, no solution. So the claim of a unique solution is false. Now the reason, judged alone, parallel lines never intersect, is a perfectly true statement. So we have a false assertion but a true reason. That's option D. The lesson: never let a true-sounding reason trick you into accepting a false assertion. This is a case study, one real situation, several linked questions. The shopkeepers to combos give us two equations, and once we build them, every part flows from that same pair. Let's set them up and work through the questions in order. The modeling step first. Let X be a notebook's cost and Y a pen's, then read each combo directly into an equation. This part is worth full marks on its own, so write both clearly. The first combo, to notebooks and 1 pen for 90, becomes to X plus Y equals 90. The second, 1 notebook and 2 pens for 75, becomes X plus 2Y equals 75. Those two equations are the foundation for everything that follows. To find X, eliminate Y. The y coefficients are 1 and 2, so double the first equation to make both have 2y, then subtract to cancel y. Doubling the first gives 4x plus 2y equals 180, subtracting the second, x plus 2y equals 75, cancels the 2y and leaves 3x equals 105. So a notebook costs 35 rupees. With x already known, don't start over, just back substitute the notebook cost into either original equation. Reusing the earlier result is the efficient move. Put x equals 35 into the first equation, 70 plus y equals 90, so a pen costs 20 rupees. Quick check with the other combo, 35 plus 2 20s is 35 plus 40, 75, exactly right. Those huge coefficients look terrifying, but they're a trap for the brute force solver. Look closely, the numbers 152 and 378 are swapped between the two equations. That symmetry is a gift, adding and subtracting will melt it away. Here's why the symmetry helps. In equation 1, x has 152 and y has minus 378, in equation 2 those are mirrored. So when we add the equations, x's coefficient becomes 152 minus 378 and y's becomes the same, they end up identical, letting us divide out. When we subtract, the same magic happens. Let's use both. Add the two equations term by term. The x coefficients combine to minus 226, the y coefficients to the same, and the right sides to minus 678. Every term shares the factor minus 226, so divide through by it. That collapses the monster into the beautifully simple x plus y equals 3. Now subtract the second equation from the first instead. This time the coefficients combine to plus and minus 530. Divide through by 530 to get another simple equation, x minus y equals 1. Now we have a friendly pair. Add x plus y equals 3 and x minus y equals 1. The y terms cancel, giving 2x equals 4, so x equals 2. Back substitute x equals 2 into x plus y equals 3, y equals 1. Inside, when the coefficients are mirrored across the two equations, adding and subtracting them exploits that symmetry and turns a frightening system into two one-line equations. Always scan for structure before grinding through arithmetic. The setters often hide an elegant shortcut in scary-looking numbers. This looks nonlinear because time equals distance over speed puts the unknowns in the denominator. The clever escape is a substitution. Replace 1 over speed with a fresh variable, and the whole thing becomes a plain linear pair. Set up the physics first. Let the boat's speed in still water be u and the stream's speed v. Going upstream the current fights you, so your effective speed is u minus v. Going downstream it helps, so u plus v. That's the foundation. Now the trouble, time equals distance divided by speed, so u and v sit in denominators, not linear. Here's the trick. Let p stand for 1 over the upstream speed and q for 1 over the downstream speed. In terms of p and q, time is just distance times p or q, perfectly linear. First trip, 30 km upstream plus 44 km downstream took 10 hours. Time is distance times p or q, so 30p plus 44q equals 10. Second trip the same way, 40 km upstream and 55 downstream in 13 hours gives 40p plus 55q equals 13. Now solve this ordinary linear pair for p and q by elimination. It works out to p equals 1/5 and q equals 1/11. But p and q were 1 over speed, so flip them back. P is 1/5 means the upstream speed u minus v is 5, q is 1/11 means the downstream speed u plus v is 11. A final easy pair. Add them, the v cancels, to u equals 16, so u equals 8. Subtract them for v equals 3. The boat is 8 km per hour, the stream 3. Insight: substituting 1 over speed as a new variable is the standard rescue when unknowns are stuck in denominators. It linearizes the problem so our two methods apply, and you just remember to invert back at the end. Watch for this pattern in boat, pipe, and work rate problems. No solution translates to parallel, which is a condition on the ratios. But there's a subtle trap waiting. The equality that gives parallel can also accidentally give coincident, so we must check the constant ratio at the end. Translate first. No solution means parallel lines, and parallel means the A and B ratios are equal so the slopes match, while the C ratio is different so the lines stay apart. Write those ratios out, k over 12, 3 over k, and the constant k minus 3 over k. The condition that fixes the slope is the first two ratios equal. Set k over 12 equal to 3 over k and cross-multiply. That gives k squared equals 36, a familiar little equation. Take the square root, remembering both signs, k equals 6 or k equals minus 6. To candidates, and here's where the trap springs. Test k equals 6. It makes the slopes match, but check the constant ratio. It turns out to equal the others too, so all three ratios agree. That's coincident. Infinitely many solutions, not no solution. So we must reject k equals 6. Test k equals minus 6. The slopes match and the constant ratio genuinely differs, so the lines are parallel and distinct. Exactly no solution. That's our answer. Insight: after using the A equals B ratio equality to find candidate k values, always test the constant ratio on each one. The equality alone can't tell parallel from coincident, one gives no solution, the other infinitely many, so that final check is what earns the mark. Before the exam, let's lock in the whole chapter, the ratio test that classifies any pair, the three solving methods, the traps that cost marks, and a couple of memory hooks. But we won't just list formulas to memorize. For each one, I'll remind you where it comes from, because a formula you understand is one you can rebuild if your memory slips under exam pressure. Here is the whole chapter on one card, and remember where it comes from. The slope of ax plus by plus c equals 0 is minus a over b, so comparing the a and b ratios is really comparing slopes, and the c ratio compares heights. That's why the test works. Put both equations in standard form and build the three ratios. If the a and b ratios differ, the slopes differ, so the lines cross once, a unique solution, and the pair is consistent. If A and B match but C is different, equal slopes at different heights means parallel, no solution, inconsistent. And if all three ratios are equal, one equation is just the other scaled, so it is the very same line, infinitely many solutions, a dependent pair. Understand those 3 lines and you never have to memorize them. 3 ways to get the exact answer, and each rests on the same idea. The solution must satisfy both equations, so we combine them without disturbing that shared point. Substitution. Because x equals the same thing in both equations, get one letter alone and swap it into the other, leaving one unknown. Elimination. Because adding or subtracting true equations gives another true equation, scale so one coefficient matches, then add or subtract to knock that variable out, same signs subtract, opposite signs add. And cross-multiplication is really elimination done once for the general pair and packaged as a formula, x over b1 c2 minus b2 c1 equals y over c1 a2 minus c2 a1 equals 1 over a1 b2 minus a2 b1. Notice that last denominator, a1 b2 minus a2 b1, it's exactly the intersecting condition, and it must be non-zero, because if it was zero the lines wouldn't cross and there would be no unique point to find. So the formula even carries its own warning inside it. A huge time saver, and here's the reasoning. Solving only makes sense when there's a single point to find, which is the intersecting case. So before you touch substitution or elimination, run the ratio test. If it tells you the lines are parallel or coincident, there's no unique point to hunt for, you can write down no solution or infinitely many straight away and move on. Only roll up your sleeves and solve when the A and B ratios genuinely differ. It costs 10 seconds and can save you minutes of pointless algebra chasing a point that isn't there. Choosing the right method is a skill worth having, and the logic is simple. Pick the one that avoids fractions. If some variable already has a coefficient of 1, isolating it costs no dividing, so substitution is quickest and cleanest. If the coefficients line up so you can add or subtract to cancel a variable, elimination is the tidy choice. And when the numbers are awkward with no easy match anywhere, the cross-multiplication formula always works. It's the reliable fallback. Matching method to the shape of the numbers is what keeps your arithmetic clean and your mistakes few. Never skip the check, and here's why it's so powerful. The solution is defined as the point that satisfies both equations, so if you drop your x and y back in and both come out true, you've confirmed the answer against its own definition. There's no way it can be wrong. Use the original equations, not the ones you rearranged, because a slip made during rearranging would otherwise go unnoticed. This one habit catches nearly every sign slip and arithmetic mistake before it costs you a mark. A few seconds of checking is the cheapest insurance in the whole exam. The most common trap in the whole chapter, the A and B ratios match, so students jump to same line, infinitely many. Not yet. Matching A and B only tells you the slopes are equal, and equal slopes cover two different pictures, coincident lines and parallel lines. The C ratio is what separates them, because C fixes the height. So always check C. If C also matches, the lines sit at the same height and coincide, infinitely many solutions. If C is different, the lines are at different heights, merely parallel, and there is no solution. That single ratio is the difference between everything and nothing, so never stop at A and B. A classic elimination slip, and it comes from a real bit of logic. Subtracting a whole equation means subtracting every term in it, but under pressure students flip only the first sign and leave the rest. Remember, The minus in front applies to the entire second equation, so it must reach every single term. Here, minus a minus 4y becomes plus 4y, and minus a minus 3y becomes plus 3y. Get one of those signs wrong and the whole answer collapses. The safe habit is to bracket the second equation and distribute the minus deliberately across every term before you combine. Sign care in elimination is where most easy marks are lost. A memory hook for case 1, but tie it back to the meaning so it sticks. Different A to B means different slopes, and lines of different slopes must dash across each other. They cross, so one solution. The moment the A and B ratios differ, you know instantly it's a single crossing point, no drawing needed. The phrase is just a handle, and the reason it's true is the slopes. And one for the tricky pair, again with the reason attached. All three ratios equal means one equation is the other fully scaled, the same line, so all points are shared, infinitely many solutions. But if C is the odd one out while A and B agree, the slopes still match yet the heights don't, so the lines run parallel and share nothing, no solution. Same slopes, to fates, decided entirely by C. Keep that picture and the mnemonic never misleads you. In 60 seconds, and remember the one picture under it all, two equations are two lines, and the solution is where they meet. Put the pair in standard form and form the three ratios, which are really comparing slopes and heights. If A and B differ, different slopes, a unique crossing. If all three are equal, the same line, infinitely many. If A and B match but C doesn't, parallel, none at all. Solve exactly with substitution, elimination, or cross multiplication, each just a different road to that meeting point. For word problems, name the unknowns, build two equations, solve, and verify. And always back substitute into both equations to be sure. Hold the picture, and the whole chapter stays with you. Your exam ready.